Hello friends, and welcome to the reading vlog. It is Sunday, February 2nd, and I am kind of opening up this vlog. It's going to be a couple of weeks, I think, in the making. So I thought that I would just open up the vlog and talk a little bit about what I'm hoping to read during this time, and also like what my plans are. So this is the stack of books that I absolutely need to read during this time. So first up, I have Dolls of Our Lives by Mary Mahoney and Allison Horrocks. This is a current read and also a book that I'm reading with two other people. I'm reading this with my best friend and my mom, and they're both a little bit ahead of me right now. So I need to play some catch up and get ahead in this book. So yeah, I'm gonna be working on this a little bit today. I'm gonna pop out and head to the park, I think, and maybe a coffee shop, just because it's a gorgeous day and I haven't been outside yet, and it's like 12:30. So I've been cooking and meal prepping for the week this morning. So now it's time to get outside and do a little bit of reading. But yeah, this is the first book that I need to prioritize in the next couple of weeks. And then I have another current read, which is Ripe by Sarah Rose Etter. I'm reading this on audio, but I do have the copy from the library. Then I have a book that I'm reading for a book club in Tulsa, and that is next Sunday, and that's In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. I have already read this book, I think only once. Looks like in 2020, I have a little like stamp that tells me when I last read it. I need to start doing that again. But this is actually signed because I met Carmen Maria Machado at a reading and she signed this for me. So this is a very special copy of this book, but I also just love the book overall. So I'm gonna be revisiting it and taking lots of notes and probably tabbing this just so that I have some things to talk about in my book club. And lastly, I have All Fours by Miranda July. This is on my 2025 TBR, and I have a copy from the library and I'm gonna have to return it relatively soon. So I want to get through this during this vlog as well. This is like my last priority out of these four, but it's definitely a book that I'd like to read and finish during this vlog. So these are my priority reads for this vlog, and we will see how far I get in the next 2 weeks or so. But for now, I'm going to head out to the park and get myself a little coffee and yeah, just enjoy the beautiful day. So I'll see you around. Okay, so I am back from the coffee shop in the park, and I am just sitting on the porch now and doing some more reading, continuing the reading vibes, but just wanted to pop home and yeah, read a little bit on the porch. Okay, apologies for the kind of bad lighting. Olive says hello though, but it's a very gloomy day out, and I just wanted to pop on here quickly to give an update since I have not updated a ton on my reading progress since I opened this vlog. So currently I have gotten through chapter 3 of Dolls of Our Lives. So far I have mixed feelings about this book. So this was originally a podcast, and I'm not sure if they're still making the podcast, but the authors write in a very podcast-ish style, and it's not like my #1 favorite type of writing style. However, I think the subject matter is interesting, and I really like the social and cultural examination of how American Girl shaped our girlhoods. So chapter 1 just kind of talked about the overall ideas in this book and introduced the authors, and then chapter 2 focused on the origins of Pleasant Company, which is the original company that started American Girl, and the authors actually go to Colonial Williamsburg to learn a little bit more about the history. And this just wasn't the most exciting aspect of this book for me. That's not like what I was really excited about when I picked up this book. However, chapter 3 really dives into the like lifestyle aspect of American Girl, And that is an aspect of the company and the experience of having American Girls that I distinctly remember and really connected with. I also really loved the historical aspect of American Girl for sure, but I haven't really connected with the historical aspect of American Girl in the way that it's written in this book so far. So I just connected a lot more with chapter 3 and really enjoyed reading that. As for what else I'm currently reading, I actually have not started In the Dream House, and I have like 3 days to read it before my book club. I know that it's a short read, but I've just had so many things going on and it's starting to really creep up on me that I haven't started it yet. So the goal for today is to, well, first get some lunch in me because I've been like filming and doing a bunch of stuff this morning and have not eaten. So I need to eat and then I need to read. But yeah, that's basically the update for now. Okay, so it is Sunday morning and Olive is climbing things she shouldn't be climbing. Hey, I just wanted to pop on to give a little reading update. So I had gotten to the end of the week and I realized that I hadn't started this yet. So I read In the Dream House just in one day. I also had the audiobook going and I kind of did like a hybrid where I listened to the audiobook and read the book at the same time. And that was such a fun experience. I haven't read a book like that in so long. I used to do that when I was a kid, but it just added to the experience because Carmen Maria Machado reads the audiobook, but there are some parts in this book that aren't read in the audiobook, specifically in the choose your own adventure section. So that was like really interesting to kind of read both at the same time. But as I was reading this book, I tabbed a lot of different areas throughout the book. And I also put sticky notes in different areas where there's something I want to talk about with my book club people. I also did some underlining in this book. However, I don't feel ready to completely like put my notes in here because this is a very special book to me. I really just don't want to put my chicken scratch in here yet. So I just underlined a few things that were important to me and then just tabbed a whole bunch of important sections or passages that I liked. So I love this book. I would give it 5 stars again, and I'm excited to talk about this in a book club. As for Dolls of Our Lives, I am still at the beginning of chapter 4. I haven't really made any progress with that. And then I also started All Fours by Miranda July. I'm currently 45 pages into this, so not super far. It is pretty interesting, but I don't really know like what the point is going to be yet. She just basically exited the highway and is staying in this motel. And I think this book is really just gonna be character focused, so I'm not expecting a lot from the actual plot. So these are the books that I'm gonna be bringing with me today in Tulsa because I'm having a very lovely self-care date situation with myself. So I'm gonna be going to the bookstore, I'm gonna go to my book club, I'm gonna get some coffee, I'm gonna read, hang out. It's gonna be lovely. So I'm bringing this book to talk about, and then these 2 books I'm going to read while I'm, sitting at the coffee shop. So I'm gonna pop these in my tote, finish my coffee, and I will be on my way. Good morning, friends. It is Monday. I feel like there hasn't been a ton of actual reading in this reading vlog, so I'd like to rectify that today. I don't know how much time I'm gonna have to just sit and read today, but I am listening to a new audiobook. I got Butter by Azuko Yazuki. So it's on Libby and I'm on chapter 2, so not super far into it yet, but about an hour and 45 minutes in. It's a very long audiobook. It's like over 16 hours, so it's gonna take me a bit to get through that. But I'm liking it so far. And I made a little bit of progress in All Fours by Miranda July, and I'm still at the end of chapter 3 in Dolls of Our Lives. So those are the books that I'm hoping to make some progress on today as I'm sitting and reading, and I'll be listening to Butter as I'm kind of going throughout my day. That is the reading update. Oh, and book club yesterday was fantastic. The group consisted of one of the booksellers at the bookstore, a local librarian, and I think 4 or 5 women who read the book. But it was all women, and it was just a really comfortable, nice environment to talk about the book. I feel like everybody got something different out of it, and it was just really nice to share my thoughts and hear other people's thoughts on the book. Truly, there's nothing like being surrounded by a group of like-minded people. I feel like ever since I've moved, I have felt like maybe I'm just more introverted, or maybe I just don't really like being in groups with new people. But in environments like this, where I really do come alive, I think it really just depends on the environment that I'm in and the people I'm around. And if I feel comfortable in a space, I can really open up and meet people and enjoy that aspect of myself that I feel like I lost a little bit. Not to get like super deep and vulnerable here, but that was sort of my main takeaway from the book club. Just being around like-minded people is so important and validating, and it was just so great to have that experience and just meet some new people. So it was a great book club. I'm so excited to go to the next one. And that was my experience. But I did want to share a couple of books that I bought yesterday at the independent bookstore, and I also went to Barnes & Noble to find a couple of things that the indie bookstore didn't have. So first, I got A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. This is a cannibal book. This is a book for a future book club at the bookstore, and I'm hoping to attend that, even though it is like pretty close to when I'm leaving on my big New York trip. However, I think that there's going to be a lot of things to talk about with this book, and it would be really nice to like get everybody's perspective on it. So I've been wanting to read this for quite some time, and my library doesn't have it, so I wanted to pick it up. I'm a little bit scared, and I have not picked up this book for a while because I was worried that it was going to be a little bit too horrifying. I mean, I've watched all the Hannibal Lecter movies, so I can't imagine that it's worse than that. So that's A Certain Hunger. And continuing on with the cannibal theme, we have The Lamb by Lucy Rose. This cover is everything. This is a new release, and it is a book that I have heard good things about so far. Pretty weird and gothic, and I'm really excited to give this one a read too. And then continuing on with the women eating theme, we have Piglet by Lottie Hazell. However, this is not people eating, just regular eating. I'm noticing there are a lot of books coming out right now that are dealing with women eating as a main theme in the book. I'm kind of here for that and want to like explore that subject. But yeah, Piglet is a book that I read a couple of weeks ago and am truly, truly obsessed with. I didn't own a copy when I read it. I just listened to the audiobook, but I loved it so much, connected with it so much that I would really love to reread it and annotate it, and I wanted to own my own copy. So that's Piglet. Next, I picked up The Secret History of the Rape Kit, a true crime story by Pagan Kennedy. I'm really interested in true crime and learning about gender-based violence. I think this is also born from my love of Law & Order SVU and some of the topics that they discuss on that show. So this is a nonfiction book, and I'm very interested in giving it a read soon. And finally, I found a book that I had been looking for a while, and that's Body Friend by Catherine Braben. So I believe that this is a book about a woman with chronic illness and follows her as she meets a couple of other women with similar chronic illnesses and each of their different perspectives on their illness. And as someone who has an autoimmune disorder and a lot of chronic pain, I think that this is going to be really relatable, and I'm hoping that I really connect with it. I do kind of have high expectations of this book, so I hope that it is as good as I am thinking it's going to be, but I'm really excited about it, and I'm glad I finally found it. So that's my book haul, and I'm going to put these away, and then I'm going to start on my cooking for the day. So yeah, that's the update. Editing Haley here. I realized that I never actually talked about Ripe at all. I finished this book during this vlog, but it was like during the craziness of me being out and freelancing and staying in an Airbnb. It was just a lot. But suffice it to say, you didn't really miss anything because I really didn't like it, and I didn't have a lot to say about it other than I didn't like it. So that is my 2 cents on Ripe, and I'll let you get back to the video. Hello, it has been a hot minute since I updated, and I feel like I keep saying that, but I really did disappear off of the radar for several days because I was freelancing for Valentine's Day with a florist friend of mine, and there was so much going on. I did not want to pick up a camera and film what was happening. I was also working. So I haven't updated in a hot minute, but I'm drinking the last little bit of my matcha and I have been reading for a little bit, so I wanted to give you a bit of an update. Okay, so I am about halfway through the audiobook for Butter, and I'm at a point where I'm not sure how I feel about it. I was enjoying it at the start, and I think it is building up to something, but it is just taking so long to build up to whatever it is it's trying to do. I'm actually halfway through the audiobook. I'm 8 hours in, so it's a 16-hour audiobook, and I really just feel like this book does not need to be this long. And I think I'm not alone in thinking that. Like, there are a lot of reviews that I've seen that say similar things. This book could have been shorter and more concise, and I think it would have packed a lot more punch if it was a bit shorter. So I'm actually having to put that aside for a little bit to start another audiobook. So I'm not officially DNFing it, but I am taking a couple of days off of that audiobook to start Night Crawling by Layla Motley. So I have the physical book here, but I also have the audiobook. This is a library copy. So yeah, this book is for another book club in Tulsa, and that is on Thursday, so I have a couple of days to finish this book. And I haven't gotten super far into it, but I do need to really buckle down and get this read because I only have a couple days. It's not terribly long, but it is still like an 11-hour audiobook, so gotta get through that. I know that this is like getting a little bit crazy because I've read so many different things in this vlog so far, but it really just is a time where I have a million things to read and a million things to get through and so much going on. So I feel a little bit scatterbrained. I'm sure that's reflected in this vlog, but we're doing what we can. In other positive news though, I have finally finished Dolls of Our Lives. This took longer than expected to finish. I think I was taking it really slowly and kind of digesting each chapter. I also really struggled to actually finish this book. It took me quite a while to wrap up the last 2 chapters. I got through the first 3 chapters pretty quickly, and then the last 2 just took me a long time. I have mixed reviews. As I said earlier in the vlog, I didn't love the writing style of this book, but I liked some of the topics that they discussed. What I am disappointed about is the complete erasure of Kaya, the Native American Girl doll. She was my first doll, and she was one of my absolute favorite dolls. And she doesn't appear at all in this book. So I don't know if that was just related to her coming out later than the scope of what this book was going to talk about. But it's just sad that she wasn't part of the book. And I think there were some interesting topics that they could have covered had they talked about Kaya. I think that a lot of this was very personal and anecdotal, which I think makes sense for the topic, and it is kind of a memoir, so I do think that that makes sense. But I was hoping that this book would delve a little bit more into some of the sociological, cultural aspects of how American Girl has shaped girlhood. Like I said before, chapter 3 does that a little bit, but it doesn't really dig in the way that I wanted it to. It kind of has some like surface level discussions as it relates to some problematic aspects of American Girl, and I think that they're valid points, but I just don't know that I was satisfied with how they covered the topic. Again, it was very podcasty in the writing style, and that's just not a favorite writing style of mine. And when I think about American Girl, I think I just have different perspectives and different feelings about it. It's kind of hard to articulate, but I guess I just wanted something a little bit different from it. And had the writing style been a little bit less conversational and brought a little less like cultural touchstone moments into it, I may have felt a little bit more connected to this book. I also think that the cultural touch points that they discuss are a little bit old for me. Like, I think that some of the things that they talk about are not nostalgic to me. I know of the people and things that they're talking about, but they weren't necessarily part of my childhood because I grew up mostly in the 2000s, and they're talking a lot about the 90s, and so it doesn't really feel nostalgic to me in the way that it does for them and for anybody who's in like an older millennial kind of generation. Whereas for me, being Gen Z technically, I don't really relate to some of the things that they're talking about. They didn't talk at all about the American Girl website or the mini games or anything like that, and those are really nostalgic things to me, but again, that's more in the 2000s. So I think I give this book 3 stars. It's kind of a middle of the road book for me. There's an equal amount of things that I like and dislike, so yeah, I think 3 stars is fair, and I finally finished a book. So my progress with all 4s is I'm 80 pages into this. I'm on chapter 8. So not a ton further than I was, but I am going to try to crank out several chapters of this today and try to get through this in this video, because this has taken me a while to get through and I have to return this to the library like ASAP. So that is the update on all 4s, and that is the reading update. So I think I'm just gonna sit here and read a little bit more, and I will update you soon. So I have an update. So I did finish Night Crawling by Layla Motley. However, it snowed like a lot over the past 2 days, and my book club was canceled, unfortunately. So I finished this book very quickly for seemingly no reason. It is actually rescheduled, so I guess I am ahead of schedule now rather than behind, so that is good. But my trip to Tulsa for that book club is not going to be in this vlog because I need to wrap this up. I've been filming for weeks. Olive is very interested in my book. I think I'm gonna give this book 4 stars because I found this book to be very powerful, very important. So this book follows our main character, Kiara, who lives with her brother Marcus, and she takes care of the little boy who lives next door, whose mother basically abandons him. They're struggling for money, and her brother Marcus is trying to make a living for himself in the music industry and coming up short. So she goes out one night, and there is a drunken misunderstanding wherein a man believes that she is a sex worker and pays her, and she essentially gets pulled into that lifestyle and begins night crawling. And she does so because she realizes that there's money to be made there, and she thinks that there's no other choice and that this is something she can do because they're just bodies. We start to see how that takes its toll on her throughout the book, and she also gets mixed up with some dirty cops. So it is a really powerful story and a really sad and heartbreaking story, especially as it relates to this little boy that she takes care of. The writing is very lyrical and poetic, and it is full of metaphors. It is very flowery language. I do think that the writing is very pretty, but I don't know that it felt overly necessary in every single sentence. And it did make this book a little bit longer, I think, because of that. So I can really appreciate this book and the themes and the writing and the language, but it wasn't a favorite for me, so I'm gonna probably give it 4 stars. But yeah, finished that, and I will be all prepared for next week's book club. I also finished Butter, and gosh, I really am not too thrilled with it. I really wanted to love it. I thought that the theme sounded really interesting and the topic. However, it dragged so hard, and I finally made it through this book, and it just took me so long to get through because of how long it was, but also the fact that I wasn't drawn to it, and it felt like a chore to pick it up and continue listening to it. I don't have a ton more to say about that, just that I was not thrilled with it. And yeah, I didn't find it to be particularly gripping. There have definitely been audiobooks that I've listened to that are that long that I have been gripped by. But with this book, the pacing was really slow, and I just didn't connect with the characters. So yeah, unfortunately didn't love Butter. I am gonna continue reading all 4s today and hopefully finish that today or tomorrow. And then we had to reschedule because of the snow and because of the craziness of my last week freelancing. But my husband and I are going to visit the Oklahoma Aquarium for our yearly engagement anniversary trip. So we've been doing that ever since we got engaged, and we're gonna try to go hang out in Tulsa, go to the aquarium, and just enjoy that. But yeah, I will check in with you soon. So I have finally completed All Fours by Miranda July, which was the last book that I set out to read in this vlog. It took a hot minute. It's kind of a chunkier one for me, but I really, really liked it. I felt like it took me a little bit to really get invested, but I hit a point where the pages just started to fly by and I was feeling really hooked on reading this. I read for like hours and hours straight at one point. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really found the subject matter interesting in terms of our main character being perimenopausal and midlife, and her kind of trying to figure out what she wants to do for the rest of her time, and also liberating herself from certain expectations and roles in her life. Just to see that play out for a middle-aged woman was really interesting. However, I would not give this book 5 stars because I didn't feel like it was revolutionary in what it was talking about, or that I necessarily would come back to this book. I've heard such good things about it, and I do think that it is a very good book, but I don't feel like, having finished it, I really want to come back to it, or I feel like it is a new favorite. So for me, that earns 4 stars. But I did really enjoy it, and I'm glad that I got through this towards the beginning of the year because it was one of my most anticipated books. So really liked it, really had a great time reading it, and yeah. So yesterday was super fun. My husband and I went to the Oklahoma Aquarium and had a great time together, got some good food, saw the aquarium, went to a coffee shop. It was just a great time. But yeah, now that I have finished All Fours, I think that it is time to wrap up this vlog. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.